Hello everyone, welcome to another video for the One Piece trading card game. In this video, we're starting a brand new series I'm calling Cards for Thought. In this series, we look at cards that are either currently released or upcoming cards that I think will have a pretty big impact on the meta. In today's video, we're looking at the red character Curly Dadan. Let's begin. Curly Dadan is a 2-cost 3K with the Slash attribute and the Mountain Bandit trait. She has an ability that says on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Reveal up to one red cost character card with a cost of 1 or less and add it to your hand. Then place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Curly Dadan also has a counter of plus 1000. Dadan is as good as the rest of the red 1-drops. She has the ability to get a lot of powerful, versatile effects, and even though we don't have the rest of the second set, we have enough of the red 1-drops from the first set in the starter deck and the promos to assume that Curly Dadan will have a good enough deck already, even if we don't get another red 1-drop in the second set. Next is our 1-drops that we will be able to get with Curly Dadan. First, we have Komichio, Karu, and Sunnykun. These are just 1 mana 3K vanillas. The only one that we'll see play is Sunnykun, because Sunnykun is the Straw Hat Crew trait, which means it is searchable by our Searcher Nami as well as Dadan being a 1-cost card. And we probably play it because we're going to be able to use it with a lot of our payoffs, either our leader effect for the example deck, or with another promo that I will be showing in this video and talking about a little bit when we talk about the deck. Both Namis are 1-drops that we can grab. The one from the set is a 2K that is just a searcher. Everyone should know this Nami. This is one of the most important cards in red. Same for the other Nami, one of the most important cards in red, being able to put one of your rested Don onto one of your characters, just giving you a little bit of extra value for that Don that you've already spent. Then we have Chopper, who is a 1 mana 1K blocker, always useful to have a blocker in case of late game situations. We have Otama, who is not only a 2K but a really good payoff helper, being able to minus 2K something and allowing our major payoffs for having this super consistent deck to work. Gordon is similar, being able to minus 3K something, but he is a little slow and he doesn't have counter, so he's not going to be as useful. And Helmeppo is pretty good, being able to give one of your characters plus 1K for the turn, but since we're not in green and we don't have many unrest effects, Helmeppo won't be as strong as something like an Otama would. And it's almost better to just spend our 1 Don and put it on something than to use a card slot on Helmeppo. Next is a promo card that I think really pushes the idea of this deck. This is going to be Franky Shogun. Franky Shogun is a 2-cost 4K ranged attribute with the Straw Hat Crew trait. Franky Shogun has an effect that says its name is always treated as Franky, and during your opponent's turn, all of your characters with a printed power of 3K or less are going to gain plus 1K power. Now, the reason why I think this card is so good is because it offers so much protection for your deck. When you really think about how good plus 1K is, you don't think about it in terms of having it on your opponent's turn. You always think about it of having it on your turn. But when you actually look at the game and you sit down and play it, you see most of the time you're going to be swinging into characters with maybe a 1k advantage at max, you're never wanting to throw your 5k into your opponent's smaller 2k. Because that card, that 5k, could be swinging at your opponent's leader. It just feels really bad. So what this card does is this card makes it so if your opponent wants to use one of their smaller characters, say you're playing against green, your opponent wants to swing a Cat Viper into your 3k, they just can't. Because now your 3k is a 4k, so they're going to either have to use a Dadan or swing with the bigger character. This card, this Franky Shogun, makes it so much harder for your opponent to board control you. Now, some decks it won't be as good. Against Don Quixote, really everything they have is a 5k, so they don't really care. But against something like green or against a red mirror, this card works wonders, since most cards in those colors that are meant for board control don't have more than 3000 power, so you're going to be able to easily defend their attacks, or they're going to have to spend something to attack into your guys, and that makes this card just so valuable. Next is the example deck that I think Curly Dadan would be pretty good in. This deck has 4 Set 1 Nami, 4 Otama, 4 Starter Deck Chopper, 3 Sunnykun, 3 Starter Deck Nami, 4 Curly Dadan, 3 Franky Shogun, 4 Set 1 Sanji, 4 Set 1 Nico Robin, 4 Set 1 Zoro, 3 Set 1 Franky, 4 Starter Deck Monkey D. Luffy, 3 Gum Gum Red Hawk, and 3 Gum Gum Jet Pistol. For leader options, I really think the only choice for this deck is going to be Zoro. He gives your board plus 1000 power on your turn, which makes his ability super strong in a deck that wants to flood the board like this one. If you wanted, you probably could run the starter deck Luffy, since this deck does have a lot of Dadan X abilities, but since we can easily find our 1-cost Nami because of Curly Dadan's effect, I think it's going to be okay to not have that leader's ability. The last mono red leader is Whitebeard, which I don't think he'll really work out for this deck, since this deck has no way to supplement his timer that he puts on himself. As you can see, we have a lot of 1-drops in this deck, and that's because we really want to use Dadan's ability well. The 1-drops start with our Set 1 Nami, who can grab any other card in the deck except for our starter deck Nami and herself, because they're named Nami. Otama and Dadan, because they're both not Straw Hat Crew, but everything else can be grabbed, including our events, and that makes Nami really good. Otama is here to help us with Nico Robin and Franky's abilities to help board control, as well as Gum Gum Jet Pistol. Chopper's just a really good blocker, and he's Straw Hat Crew, so he can be grabbed with both of our searchers. Sunnykun is a really good body that gets bigger with Zoro and 1 Dadan enough to hit your opponent's face, so he's not too bad to have. The starter deck Nami is here just to help us with some of our Dadan abilities. She's really good if we end up playing a Jet Pistol on one of our turns, being able to put that Dadan use from Jet Pistol onto something else, as well as if we play something like a Monkey D. Luffy or a Zoro for a rush threat. After that, we'll move on to the 2-drops. Obviously, the 4 Dadan. This is the main engine in the deck, being able to find our 1-drops that give us various effects like protection or a shrink or another search. Franky Shogun is only at 3 because he can be a little useless sometimes, and since he is searchable, you can get him in matchups that you really need him, and not too much matchups where he doesn't really do anything. We have 4 Set 1 Sanji because Sanji can help us against those pretty tough matchups. Mainly, the matchups where Franky isn't amazing, Sanji seems really good in. A matchup like Don Quixote, who's going to want to try to control your board as much as possible. Sometimes they don't threaten your life at all, and Sanji can help you get that extra card draw while also controlling your opponent's board. And that's why Sanji's really strong. And also, he's just a good body. He is a 3K, so he does get pumped by Shogun on your opponent's turn, and he can easily swing at your opponent with Zoro ability and one Don, just like Sunny-kun can. We're on 4 Nico Robin and 3 Set 1 Franky because they're just really good board control. With Otama, Robin can start killing 5Ks, and Franky gets a lot of value being able to attack untapped guys. Zoro and Luffy are really good rush threats, being able to end the game and also come in unpredictably and attack some of your opponent's characters. And then with some of the events, Red Hawk is really good removal and some added protection in case a game goes late. And Gum Gum Jet Pistol is here to deal with some of our opponent's bigger threats. The main thing with this is this deck has a little trouble dealing with Eustace Captain Kidd, but thankfully he's only an 8K, so using an Otama to shrink him does put him in range of Gum Gum Jet Pistol. So if you can search them, which since Nami is able to search Jet Pistol, you should have a pretty good time dealing with those green decks. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed. This is a new series on this channel that I thought would be a pretty good idea. Since we already looked at all of the leaders currently in the game that we know the entire card pool for by the time they should be released, I thought it was a good idea to start reviewing actual cards. Even though this is a card in the second set, not a card in the first set, I do think that this card is very good and will impact the meta when it is released. But from going forward, we'll probably only be looking at cards in the first set, since the first set is closer to being released. I just wanted to do this card because I thought this card is good enough. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.